Oklahoma City, a city that loves its sports. 15 miles to the south is Norman, where football is big, but it's not king when it comes to national championships. The Sooner men's gymnastics team is building a dynasty. Fueling the greatest athletes' intensity, determination, courage, and poise. All of these components are vital parts of what the best athletes in gymnastics possess. Long hours of training, sweat seeping through the pores, and clutching that perfect finish can only be felt deep down within the one who is truly committed. The leaders of these squads challenge them on their accuracy and knowledge every day. They have been recognized at the highest levels and earned respect from the gymnastics nation. Fueling the greatest athletes is a force that will continue to change and move into different directions as these gymnasts take their athleticism to another level. This is what it takes to be an NCAA champion. We're inside the Lloyd Noble Center in Norman, Oklahoma, the home of the Sooners, but now it serves as the stage for the 2006 Men's NCAA Gymnastics Championships. Hi, everybody. Along with Bart Conner, I'm Mike Gleason. Great to have you with us, and I can't think of a better guy to ask the question, what does it take to become a champion?
Well, as you saw last year in these team championships, it came down to thousands of points separating the top team from the runner-up. So for many of these athletes, this is the culmination of as many as 18 years of training coming into tonight's team finals.
Well, the Oklahoma Sooners trying to defend the championship. If they do so, it'll be 4 out of 5. They're number 1 in the country. They're home. I guess it's safe to say this is their championship to lose.
Well, head coach Mark Williams told me before the competition, with their undefeated season and the way they're looking right now, to not win would be a big disappointment for Oklahoma, considering they're here at home and they're the deepest team. But if they're inconsistent, there's several other teams hoping to take that championship.
5 other schools joining Oklahoma vying for a national championship. One school not listed, the Buckeyes of Ohio State.
And this was a real shocker because they're a terrific team. They were ranked 3rd in the country coming into this competition. They chose to rest some of their best players, but had an inconsistent performance in the national qualifier. So today they're sitting here watching.
So a national champion will be crowned. How about the format?
All right, let's take a look at it. There are actually 7 rotations, 6 groups of teams and 1 group of individuals, 6 gymnasts per rotation on each event for each team, but just the top 4 scores count towards their team total. And
Bart, with each rotation, one school will sit idle. Penn State will be sitting the first rotation. Here's how the other 5 schools will start. Golden Bears of Calv on the pommel horse, one of the toughest places to start.
Absolutely, and in fact, the top qualifying team gets to choose what rotation they want to start in. So Oklahoma chose one of the tougher events as well, parallel bars, meaning they'll finish on a high-scoring event, the vault.
Head coach of the Sooners, Mark Williams, only a 3-time National Coach of the Year. Last 5 years, 3 national championships and 2 second-place finishes. And starting things off on the parallel bars, arguably the best male athlete in gymnastics.
In fact, not only is he one of the best gymnasts here, he's one of the best gymnasts in the world. Recently won the American Cup competition against some of the top competition in the world. I expect him not only to lead here, but he may be a factor for the U.S. team at the Olympics in Beijing in 2008. That's how good he is.
They say he has no fear, a little bit crazy. Does that help him?
He's very aggressive, as you can see. He just rips through these routines, and even when he's a little off, he has such strength that he can pull himself back into position and manage to grind out at least an acceptable routine. Look at the power and explosiveness.
Horton, a sophomore, 11 first-place finishes this year.
Look at that intensity.
That's what they call sticking the landing. Huh?
You're not kidding, and he's such a leader, not only by his performances, but the energy that he brings to this team. And of course, when you nail a landing like that, you get everybody jacked up.
So Jonathan Horton, the sophomore, with a 9.525 to open things up for the Oklahoma Sooners, the defending champions. How about some of the scoring? A little bit different this year.
It certainly is, and every 4 years after the Olympics, the judges make some rules changes. Well, it took them a whole year to come up with these new rules. They're very complicated, but basically it comes down to 5 element groups on each event, a half a point for each. That comes to 2.5. Then the difficulty score is capped out at 3.5, and I'll explain as we go along. And the judges have 4 points reserved for execution and technique. And if you can get all that perfect, you can come up to a 10. But good luck. It's tough these days.
And the operative word is if, right? Tom Gleelmy, the fourth-year head coach of the Stanford Cardinal, ranked number 2 in the country, their highest ranking in over a decade, and starting strong on the vault because David Sender is number 1 in the country.
And he is a very explosive tumbler and vaulter, although he was weak in the preliminary competition and didn't have his best meet. I talked to Tom Gleelmy, and he said, my stars have to do well today if we're going to challenge Oklahoma. He does one of the most difficult vaults in the competition. Yurchenko, 2.5 twister. He did go outside the line, which is a deduction.
How much of a deduction?
Well, it's, you know, it's about 3/10 if you step outside of the line. If you land completely outside of the line, it's as much as a half a point. So you can see he's a little off, but boy, he's so far from the horse and great technique.
He said the best advice he ever got from his parents, suck it up.
9.325. I thought that score could have been a little higher. That was a 9.8 start value.
Yoshi Hayasaki, in his 30th year as the head coach of the Fighting Illini of Illinois, 61 All-Americans, finished second to Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. Really excited, though, because they are healthy for the first time, Bart, and they open up on the high bar with Chris Silcox.
Yoshi has had so many great teams over the years, but this year he's been plagued with injuries. 3 of his major stars have been hurt with really freakish injuries. See what Silcox can come up with. Chris Long was up first. He had an 8.7. Remember, 6 guys on a team. The top 4 scores count towards their team total. So if you have a mistake, you can actually drop a low score. Or 2, in fact. Look at this move. Oh, he's off. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, when it rains, it pours. We just got through saying that the Fighting Illini hit with a rash of injuries this year. Finally healthy coming into the NCAAs.
In fact, that's exactly what happened to one of their stars, Adam Pummer, earlier in the year. He did a similar move where he's reaching back like this, trying to catch the bar in that L grip. And the same thing happened to Pummer. He completely missed the mat and got hurt. I hope he is okay. Wow.
Oh, that is a tough way to open up for the Fighting Illini. Second in the Big Ten Championships. Barry Weiner, the head coach of the Cal Golden Bears, national champions in '97 and '98. And they're opening up, as we mentioned at the top of the show, on the pommel horse. And here's a young man, Kaisen Bunthawong. He's only a freshman, and Weiner says he's already one of the best as far as artistic.
He is a really great-looking gymnast, very stylish, beautiful technique. Look at how high he is above the horse. Great body. Oh, that's unfortunate. Now, Cal has had a rough start here. Their first performer, Sean Bryan, only a 6'7". Jason Pierce, a 7'5". Sean Mowry, a 7'9'5". Their best score to this point is only an 8.55 from Colin Christ. This is a disaster. When I talked to Coach Barry Weiner yesterday, he said our whole meet rests on whether we're consistent on the pommel horse. This is not a good sign for the Bears.
This young man once received a perfect 10 on the horse in the Junior Olympic Nationals. Those days are over, though, huh?
Oh, I tell you, that is amazing how talented he is here. Of course, you know, when 4 guys before you struggle, you tend to tighten up. And pommel horse is one of those events where you have to really be aggressive and you really have to swing it out there. But once you see guys start falling, it's almost infectious. That's unfortunate. This is going to be a disastrous performance. They're looking for a high 8 or a low 9 from him every time.
And the silver lining is at least they're getting the horse out of the way early.
Well, some teams like to opt to,
I would.
yeah, you know, get the rough one out of the way, but I don't know how they're going to recover from this hole because they need their stars to deliver here, and Bunthawong is one of them, just a freshman. Interesting note with Cal and how they differ from the other teams. Every team here has 6.3 scholarships. The Cal Bears only have 3 scholarships, and Bunthawong is a benefactor of one of those, but oh, that's a shame.
Kaisen Bunthawong, a freshman with a 7'7". Tom Dunn in his 25th year as the head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes. He went over the 200 victory plateau this year. He was the coach of the year in the Big Ten with Miles Avery of Ohio State, and they open on the rings Jacques Bouchard, the senior captain.
So So far, their scores have been a little bit weak here. Rings is an event that it's all about strength moves, and if you have the ability to connect strength moves, there's a nice uprise to Maltese, bounced across, good positions. Watch to see that his shoulders are level and that he holds all those strength moves at least 0.2 of a second. Wow, nice. That move is called an Azarian roll back around the iron cross. Good position.
I don't know what it's called, but it looks tough to me.
It's tough on the shoulders. Look at the biceps on this young man. He is solid.
He's ranked 8th nationally with an average score of 9.405. He got a 9.2 yesterday.
Slightly bent arms on that front giant swing. You want to have those arms locked out and show control of the rings at all times. Good looking double layout and a good landing. They needed a good performance there because their earlier performances were less than great. There's the double layout. Not the most difficult dismount, but of course, no deduction on that landing. That's what I talk about, the intensity of this team finals. These guys are pumped up, and this is fun to watch.
Well, we mentioned his average score, about 9.4. He gets a 9.4. Jacques Boussard, the senior captain of the Iowa Hawkeyes from New Mexico. Well, let's go back to the Fighting Illini of Illinois on the high bar. Here's Justin Spring, second in the country on this apparatus. Winter Cup champ and NCAA champ 2 years ago. We showed you earlier Chris Silcox of Illinois starting things off by falling off the bar.
Scored only a 7.6, but we could be in for one of the highlights of the day here. Watch this. A double over with a full twist. Justin Spring is one of the most electrifying gymnasts I've ever seen. He is aggressive. He does not hold back.
In his mind, is he competing with Jonathan Horton at all here?
Well, there certainly is a little bit of an all-around battle going on in addition to the team championship. But what I like about both of those guys is that they go for stuff. Watch this. He does a triple at the end. Let's see if he goes for it. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nuts.
It is. Let's take another look at it, Bart.
I mean, this is the kind of guy that could make the finals at the World Championships or the Olympics with a routine with this level of difficulty. Here's that release. A double back over the bar, goes completely out of the frame, adds a full twist, and catches it cleanly.
So Justin Spring, one of the seniors on the Fighting Illini. There's his score and a good recovery on the high bar. If you look at the standings after the first rotation, the Fighting Illini sitting in the #1 spot, followed by Oklahoma, Stanford, Iowa, Cal, and the Nittany Lions of Penn State idle in that first rotation. The Lions are ready to go in rotation number 2. They open up on the floor, and we'll have that when we come back. ESPN2's exclusive presentation of the 2006 NCAA Men's Gymnastics Championships, brought to you by Pontiac, the official performance machines of the NCAA. Back inside the Lloyd Noble Center in Norman, Oklahoma, the home of the Oklahoma Sooners. The Sooners sitting in the #2 spot behind the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Right now, let's take a look at the Coke Zero storyline. And we go back to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point last year.
Jonathan Horton was the final vaulter for Oklahoma in their final event. Ohio State thought they had it won. Horton came up with a solid vault, enough for the Sooners to edge out Ohio State. It was a heartbreaker for Ohio State, that's for sure.
9-3, got a 9-5. The Fighting Illini sitting in first place will be idle this rotation. The other 5 schools, Penn State on the floor exercise. Still rings the Cal Golden Bears, who started on the horse, of course, drastically. The Iowa Hawkeyes on the vault, Stanford on the parallel bars, and Oklahoma on the high bar. We lead things off with Chris Brooks, a freshman who won this event at the Mountain Pacific Sports Federation Championships.
He is a solid performer. He comes out of Houston, Texas. Bill Foster was his coach down there at Houston North Gymnastics. Foster has contributed many top gymnasts to the U.S. national team. He's got an exciting routine. Oklahoma's ranked #1 in the country on this event. nicely done. You see a lot of these full pirouetting type skills to a mixed grip, or what they call an L grip, where your arms are completely twisted. And there's several variations of these full pirouetting skills where you can earn difficulty points.
I can see where practice makes perfect, but how do you start at a young age going right up there?
It's unbelievable. I mean, these athletes have been doing this for many 15, 18 years. Look at this double-double at the end. Oklahoma looking good on high bar. Wow. This is a laid-out double-double. 2 flips, 2 twists. He finishes it in plenty of time to spot the landing and just drill it.
Chris Brooks, first on the high bar at the U.S. Championship back in '03. There's his score, 9.6. Leading off the second rotation for the Sooners of Oklahoma. Randy Jepson, the head coach of Penn State, 15th year with the Nittany Lions, National Coach of the Year in 2000 and 2004 when they won the national championship. And they're on the floor, leading things off Chad Busick, a former walk-on, and now this year a Nissen-Emery candidate.
And he can be spectacular on the floor. Excellent opening combination. Watch for back tumbling skills, front tumbling skills. There's a combination of both there. Very nicely done. A little bit sloppy on those landings. You want to stick those landings.
You know, Bart, I mentioned a former walk-on, now the team captain.
We're going to talk throughout this competition about the different rules and the different ways of getting difficulty values. Quite a bit different than last year. Most of the gymnasts had to redesign their routines. Look at that. It's called a flange when you hold your body completely parallel to the floor, and that fulfills a requirement. One of the things the judges are looking for, in addition to tumbling, is what they call a non-acrobatic movement, and that fulfilled one of those element group requirements. Good difficulty in that routine, but 3 big steps on those landings. That shows in his score.
Busick at 9.125. Let's check out the Iowa Hawkeyes on the vault. Michael Revis, last year's NCAA champion in this event.
He's just a terrific all-around gymnast. The leader of this team for sure. Oh, isn't that unfortunate? He has great technique in this vault. It's called the Yurchenko style vault. Watch, he goes back onto the vaulting table. Beautiful push and position in the air, just short of rotation, which forced him to take a huge leap outside of that line, which will be a substantial deduction. Look at that, 8.55. Normally he's in that 9.2, 9.3 range easily.
Revis holds the Iowa school record. Now let's go over to the rings now with Tyler Block of the Golden Bears of Cal. He's a native of Berkeley.
He is extremely strong. Look at that. Maltese position, bounce to cross. Averaged more than 9.4 all year long. As a freshman, was an All-America on this event.
Barry Weiner saying he was a pleasant surprise last year. Great improvement since then.
On rings, you need to show strength moves, of course, and some type of swing elements. Good control of the rings. Cal had a really unfortunate start. Oh, he's over in that handstand. That's unfortunate. He needed to hold that handstand at the end of that giant swing. Cal off to a really rough start today, unfortunately.
When you say hold it, how long does he have to hold it?
Well, you have to hold it 2 seconds to get full credit for all of the hold positions on the rings. After a disastrous opening round on the pommel horse, Barry Weiner said they needed to be consistent there. They needed a good score here from Block as well.
Great camera angle, huh? Great shot looking down.
It's kind of the athlete's view. That's what he's looking at, that floor straight below him. Right there, see, he was over past that handstand on that giant swing. He wanted to stop it for 2 seconds and therefore also over-rotated his dismount.
So Tyler Block pulling in a 9.150 on the rings. Nate Downs is up next on the parallel bars. The Stanford Cardinal, senior out of Cincinnati, another Nissen-Emery candidate. So
So far, some of the other performances, including Sho Nakamori, 9-1-2-5 on the parallel bars. Stanford is very good here.
Downs won this event at the conference championships in 05.
You might notice that yesterday they were wearing white. Today they're wearing red. And their head coach, Tom Glealmy, said one of the guys in the team figured out that in the finals, the team wearing red beats a team wearing white 23% more of the time. Oklahoma happens to be
23%. You can tell they're from Stanford.
Exactly. I said, did you figure that, Tom? And he said, no, I didn't. One of my guys figured it out.
Well, Downs said he wouldn't list his most embarrassing moment because the last time he did that, everyone could read about it.
Not bad. Not a great score. 8-7-5, but that's probably what that routine was worth. They need to get, parallel bars is really tough to get a good score. So if you can score over 9 on parallel bars, you have a heck of a routine.
All right, hang on to your seat now. Back to the high bar. Here's Jonathan Horton. He really excels.
And Oklahoma has done well here so far. Jake Messina had a 9-4. Chris Brooks, we saw him, 9-6. Jamie Henderson, a 9-3. Taki Abdullah, a 9-4. So they'll try to see if they can match Illinois, because after Silcox's miss, Illinois was spectacular on the high bar. Wait till you see, he's going to do 3 outrageous release moves. Here's the first. Oh, he's in a little close.
3, you said that wasn't happening 15 years ago.
Look at this. That's a double back with a full twist called a Coleman. He's got one more coming up.
Oh.
That is nuts. You talk about pumping up a crowd. He is so aggressive and so much fun to watch. Now watch this. He'll do a triple twisting double layout. Oh, my goodness. And he stuck it.
Oh, now that'll jack up a crowd.
Many gymnasts in the world can do a double twisting double. Very few can do a triple twisting double. And I don't think I've ever seen one better than that. Look at this triple twisting double layout. This guy can do every dismount in the code of points. And he trilled a tough move in the end.
9-8.
Oh, man.
I don't know about you, but to me, that's pretty close to a perfect 10.
You can see why they call him X Games. That guy can do it all.
Illinois leading after the first rotation. Idle, they're down to 5th, and the Sooners of Oklahoma, they were 2nd, and now they climb up into that number 1 spot. Well, Bart will get more specific with the change in scoring in 2006, and that's coming up on the Home Depot Coaching Clinic when we come back.
Hi, I'm David Sender from Stanford University, and we deserve this championship because it's been a while since we've won. We've been training all year for this, and it's time for Oklahoma to come down.
Well, in order for Stanford to take down the Sooners, they have to abide by the new NCAA rules. For more on the rules change, here's Bartz with the Home Depot Coaching Clinic.
One of the major differences in the new rules is that there are limitations on what are called connection bonus points. On parallel bars and the pommel horse, there are no connection bonus points available at all. For example, on pommel horse last year, if the gymnast performed a sequence like this, traveling down the length of the horse and immediately traveling back, they would get connection bonuses. That's not the case this year. And on 3 events where you can still get connection bonus points, the floor exercise, high bar, and rings, the judges have made it much more difficult to get those valuable points. In this case, Olympic medalist Jordan Yovchak will show a combination where you don't get connection bonus. Watch this. He lowers to an inverted iron cross and then downhill to a Maltese cross. It's very difficult, but you don't get connection for going downhill. As an example, the only way to get connection bonuses now is if the strength skills are connected in an ascending order. Let me show you what I mean. Now in this combination, Jordan will get connection bonus for going uphill. He starts in an L cross position and then presses uphill to an inverted cross. It's next to impossible. The only way you get connection bonus is if you're, well, basically Superman, like Jordan.
And he certainly did look like Superman, Bart.
That guy is strong.
Rotation number 3, Illinois will be on the floor. Nittany Lions on the horse. And the California goes to the vault. The Hawkeyes on the parallel bars. Stanford on the high bar. And that's where we join Sho Nakamori, the sophomore. In his first collegiate meet ever last year, he beat Cal by winning this event with a 9.65.
Typically, it's a good event for him. Had a 9.3 in the preliminary competition. Very aggressive. Good-looking release move, but a little bit of an arm bend as he swung through it. It'll be a minor deduction. It was the same move that we saw from Jonathan Horton, that full twisting double over the bar. It's pretty outrageous.
This looks tough enough. Remind me later in the broadcast to ask you why they had to change the point system.
All right. Their first performer was Brian Haddon, had an 8.55. Remember, 6 guys on each event, just the top 4 scores count. So you can have a little bit of a buffer there, but Oklahoma's looking real good. So if Stanford hopes to challenge them, they got to stick landings like that. Nice.
Sho Nakamori. Nakamori, the sophomore. Have a look at his dismount.
All right. And a 9.4. Nice going.
Let's go over to the floor right now. There's Adam Pummer. 12 event titles. He missed the Big Ten championship because of an injury. And he's one of the athletes we talked about at the top of the show. But Hayasaki is more than happy to have this young man back.
Absolutely. He's very powerful, and he's one of those 3 key players on Illinois that were injured, including Tyler Yamauchi, Pummer, and of course Justin Spring has had his share of injuries, including a broken kneecap earlier this year. So originally out of Allentown, Pennsylvania, was at the Parkettes Gymnastics gym there, which has produced a lot of top women national team members.
It's amazing. You talk about these injuries, all the injuries that these athletes go through.
We saw in the first rotation Chris Silcox fly off the high bar. Well, he has subsequently scratched. He was in their lineup for the floor, but it looks like Illinois is only going to go with 5 guys, so they have less of a buffer than the other teams do.
I saw Justin Spring at the hotel today, and I said, you know, if you screw up and fall off the high bar, how do you get back on? He said, you know, some guys, they'll excel in other events, and it's tough mentally to get back up there.
Once that fear factor becomes an issue. Not a bad finish. Wesley Hagenson before him at a 9.3.
Adam Pummer with a 9.425 on the floor exercise. And then he lines with Penn State on the horse. As Bart talked about this earlier in the broadcast, one of the more difficult events here. This is Derek Helsby, a sophomore. And Bart, earlier this year when Casey Sandy was injured, Helsby really stepped up and became one of the best on this event.
This is just a brutal event to get a good score. If you can have a team that can average about 8.5 to 8.8 on Pommel Horse, that is considered a good score these days.
He's third nationally with a 9.0. He'd love to get that here.
Absolutely.
He had a 9.4 against Stanford this year.
These routines are about 30% longer than they were last year because, as I mentioned in that piece, there is no bonus for doing connections, so you have to do more individual skills, and it's an additive situation. Each skill has a certain point value, and you got to stay up there a long time to rack up enough difficulty points to get a decent score.
Averaging 9, he gets a 9.075. Earlier we talked about the 23% wearing the red uniform. The Stanford Academics, the GPA 3.465. Wow. Dylan Carney on the high bar. 4th nationally in this event with a 9.410. You saw his numbers.
Jason Shen had a 9.275 for them. David Sender just an 8.6.
Getting back to the injuries, a couple of years ago, and he was a freshman, he competed once, and he had a season-ending back injury. And here he is on the high bar, back on the horse, huh?
Good-looking release move. That's what they call a reverse hecht. If you look for those pirouetting skills, a release move, they need to show a high-flying release move, at least one. 5 5 different event requirements, one skill where you're in close to the bar, and of course the dismount is always important. And if you stick the landing on an especially difficult dismount in NCAA, you have a chance to get an additional 1/10 of a point bonus.
The Hartford, Lowe's, and State Farm Insurance. Their support has advanced NCAA championship.
Dylan Carney, a junior for the Stanford Cardinal.
60,000 student athletes.
Nice landing.
Nicely done.
So Dylan Carney pulls off a 9.625.
Well done.
Has to be happy with that. Let's go to the vault now. Here's Tim McNeil of the Cal Golden Bears, considered one of the best gymnasts to ever compete at Cal.
He's a very balanced all-around gymnast. Just a sophomore, I think he has terrific potential. A little bit fragile. Oh, no.
Oh, geez. McNeil winning the all-around at the conference championship, scoring above 9 on 5 of the 6 events, and this is costly.
Oh, he came on real high and didn't get much of a good push off the vaulting table. And that, of course, resulted in a disaster. Boy, a rough start so far today on the first 3 events for Cal. Pommel horse, rings, and vault. Their best events are coming up next, but they're really in a hole.
And it's tough because they've gotten stronger as the season progressed. Here's Justin Spring from Illinois on the floor exercise.
We saw him light up the place with his high bar routine. Watch this opening tumbling run. It's a double twisting double back. And it's effortless. He's one of the few guys in the world who can actually do a triple twisting double back. It's funny, I talked to him yesterday about what his future plans are. He says, well, I might like to be an assistant coach, or I might move out to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado, or you know, I've always wanted to be a Navy pilot.
He has some options, huh?
And he intends to train for the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, and I think he should be a factor there.
Well, his dad was an astronaut. Comes from a family of gymnasts.
He can just do so many skills. And one of the things that ties in with the new rules is that gymnasts, because they don't get much connection bonus, they are doing a more variety of skills than we saw in the past. Sometimes that can be disastrous because some of the gymnasts are training skills that they aren't quite comfortable with, which is leading to more injuries, and that's part of the theme of today's show. Spring, however, is just unbelievable on the floor.
No doubt one of the better gymnasts in the competition in 2006. As we check out the standings now after rotation 3, Stanford's sitting in the top spot now with 110.950, followed by the Iowa Hawkeyes, Cal, Oklahoma, Illinois, and Penn State. When we come back, we'll have this year's Nissen Emery Award winner. Welcome back to Norman, Oklahoma, the site of the 2006 Men's Gymnastics Championship. And now let's check our Coke Zero storyline.
Well, the other night here in Norman, they had the NCAA banquet where they present the Nissen Emery Award, which is known as the Heisman Trophy of Gymnastics. And a very deserving Justin Spring from Illinois won the honor for the top senior student athlete in gymnastics.
And last year, Guillermo Alvarez of Minnesota. You see the past winners. They're back in 1981. Who is that guy down there? I think whoever it is should get a bigger font.
Yeah, no kid, 25 years ago. Ouch.
Quite an honor. Justin Spring telling me at the hotel today the biggest honor he's received. Rotation 4, Oklahoma on the floor. Illinois now moves over to the horse. Nittany Lions on the rings. And we move to the high bar. Hawkeyes, Tom Buse, sophomore of Gainesville, Florida. His team is ranked 5th on the bar. His best effort this year, 9.110.
Previous performers, Matt Byler had an 8.8. Ben Gonsolin an 8.15. Throughout this competition, you're just noticing lower scores than what we're used to seeing. That's just a function of the new code of points and the new rules. Basically, every 4 years, the judges change the rules to raise the bar, essentially, to make it more difficult to get a high score because they have to keep up with the progress of the gymnasts. Well, these rules are brutal because you can nearly kill yourself doing really complicated, difficult gymnastics and get an 8.45. It's no fun.
And it takes a while for everyone to digest the new scoring system.
The athletes, the coaches, and even the judges, the competition here is taking longer because the judges are having a difficult time calculating all these new rules and new scores.
Tom Buse, there's the score. Let's go to the horse now. Wesley Hagenson, last year's Big Ten Rookie of the Year.
Once again, we saw Chris Silcox in the first rotation fall off the high bar. He was going to be in the lineup here, but he scratched. So their other scores so far, Ted Brown had an 8. Oh, no. Hagenson. Ted Brown had an 8.975. Chris Lung a 9.0. Not a bad score on pommel horse. Tyler Yamauchi an 8.55. But they're expecting normally Hagenson to deliver a good routine here. He's very strong. Usually he can struggle through and grit through a routine.
Last year, of course, going down the stretch, Illinois struggled on the horse. It seems like you see a look in the faces. A lot of people are getting freaked out by this apparatus. Tough enough to score, and yet you guys go and change the scoring system.
Well, there you go. And this was the nemesis for most of the teams. Even Ohio State last year and Illinois both very weak performances on the pommel horse. Hagenson a 7.9. Wow.
Well, this year the NCAA Women's Bowling Championships moved to Houston, Texas. You can catch all the action on ESPN2 on April 16th at 2:30 p.m. for the official results from every NCAA National Championship, including a recap of the 2006 Men's Swimming and Diving Championships. Go to NCAAsports.com. NCAAsports.com, the official online home for all 88 NCAA championships. Colin Chris from Cal on the parallel bars.
This is another one of those events where there are no connection points available to the gymnast. So that combination there, really nice, in fact. All three of these moves in a row, good combinations, but no connection points available for connecting difficult skills back-to-back on the parallel bars.
Now the Golden Bears should pick up some points, right? They're number one team-wise in the country in this event, and they have 3 ranked in the top 10.
Nice looking gymnast. Really good technique, which is typical of the gymnast that you see from Barry Wiener's California Bears. He seems to just recruit that type of athlete that has the technique, not necessarily all the physical strength yet, but they mature into the strength and become fine gymnasts. He doesn't quite have the depth of the other teams here, however.
This is Tommy Ramos on the rings for Penn State. You saw his numbers. He ranks 4th nationally with that 9.570.
Good positions here in these strength moves. Oh, I love that. Back roll around to a Maltese, back roll around to an L-cross. Now pressing up from the L-cross to the Maltese. That's one of those moves going uphill against gravity that allows you to get connection points from the judges.
Ramos, a 9.8 at the West Point Open back in January.
A couple of good scores for Penn State so far. Helsby, a 9.35. Matt Cohen, a 9.15. That should score well.
A 9.425. Ramos has the top 3 scores in this event this year. Let's check out the Oklahoma Sooners now. A little height discrepancy here.
How about that? You rarely see a gymnast that's 6'3" or 6'1". Russell Chasheen and Brian Carr, and then there's little Jonathan Horton, pound for pound, maybe the strongest guy in the world.
And here's Russell Chasheen now on the floor, only a freshman. 6'3".
Isn't that something? Now, typically, a taller gymnast, and there have been some that made the national team. Phil Cahoy, many years ago, was about 6'1.5 feet. Typically, the tall guys are good on swing events like the high bar and the pommel horse. They're not normally great on floor and vaulting, but Chasheen comes from the background. He comes from the power tumbling background. And so he doesn't do the all-around. He just does floor and vault, and it is remarkable that a guy this tall, I mean, he's a giant for a gymnast, can do the acrobatic skills that he can do.
6'3", looks very athletic. Maybe he should try a wideout with Bob Stoops and the Sooners.
Oh, what a talented young man. Most gymnasts would have fallen back on their seat after under-rotating that combination, but he managed to get his feet underneath him and not give away a major deduction.
Only a freshman, named the Mountain Pacific Sports Federation Gymnast of the Week, and he won the vault and tied for first against Air Force. And Russell gets a 9.150. So after 4 rotations now, sitting in the driver's seats over halfway there, Hawkeyes still #1, followed by Cal, Oklahoma, Stanford, Illinois, Penn State. Now, what does it take to be a champion? You have to be tough.
Concussion, sprained ankles, broken fingers,
broken hand, broken collarbone.
I broke my arm. I had a compound fracture in my right arm. I broke both my ankles.
What it takes to be a champion, some of the highs and lows and some of the emotions here in Norman, Oklahoma as we move to rotation 5. The Oklahoma Sooners are ranked #1 in the country on the horse, one of the more difficult exercises or events here. Stanford on the floor. And I mentioned that Cal was sitting #1 going to the last break. That can be a little bit misleading.
It is deceiving because actually not all the teams have competed on the same number of apparatus because of the bye. So if you look at just the average score per gymnast, Oklahoma is in a solid lead. In fact, they're on target to set a scoring record this year with an average of 9.318. Stanford in second and Illinois in third.
You see the numbers on the left. Those are the national rankings coming in. Illinois moving to the still rings now. This is Tyler Yamauchi, a sophomore. He has 9 rings titles in his 2 years in Champaign.
He's enormously strong, and he's one of those Illini gymnasts who suffered an injury. He rolled his ankle very badly and had limited action there for a couple of weeks, but it certainly hasn't affected him here on the rings. Perhaps only on the dismount will he feel any sting on that ankle, but he's strong.
Yamauchi sharing the Illinois record on the rings with Wes Hagenson, 9.850.
John Drollinger earlier, a 9.225, their best score so far. Oh, he drilled that landing, double layout.
9.350.
That had to sting on that landing. I saw his ankle heavily taped up before the competition. Nice going.
Let's go to the horse now. Oklahoma, Jacob Messina out of Matthews, North Carolina, suburb of Charlotte.
They've had some trouble here. Taki Abdullah only a 7.55, fell off twice earlier. Jonathan Horton struggled as well with a 7.95. Jamie Henderson hit a clutch routine with an 8.675.
Messina's career high, 9.25.
They really need a score here. Otherwise, they may have to count something in the 7s. And this is the one place where Oklahoma was vulnerable, and Messina delivered. It wasn't beautiful, but can't believe I'm saying an 8.35 is a good score. But these days, that's a pretty darn good score in the pommel horse.
Messina, 4-time state champion in North Carolina. Back to the rings with Illinois. This is Justin Spring, the Nissen Emery Award winner.
We saw that 9.75 on the floor exercise. That's the high score of the meet so far. Now, this isn't his best event, but Illinois is very strong on the rings, and they are coming back, and they're going to make it a little more interesting for Oklahoma. Chris Lung had an 8.5. Wesley Hagenson a 9.275.
Spring, when he was a freshman, All-American on the floor. Sophomore, national championship on the high bar. Junior, national title on the parallel bars. And this year, the Nissen Emery Award winner, as Mark mentioned, equivalent of the Heisman Trophy, goes to a senior.
Nice going. Illinois doing well on the rings.
Justin Spring with an 8.90. Spring didn't compete in the Winter Cup and still retained his spot on the U.S. senior national team. Stanford sitting at number 2, but the Cardinal now heading for the horse. And look at this, heading for rotation 6, Illinois leading Oklahoma. Justin Spring trying to get the Fighting Illini back inside the winner's circle. That national championship has eluded the Illini since 1989. Inside the Lloyd Noble Center in Norman, Oklahoma, the home of the Oklahoma Sooners, and the stage this year for the NCAA Men's Gymnastics Championship. Moving to rotation 6, Stanford sitting at number 2, but on the horse now. And check this out, as far as drama, Oklahoma, Illinois, rings and vault.
This is going to be thrilling. Oklahoma, number 1 ranked NCAA team on the rings, and they'll be going up head-to-head with Illinois, who's the top team in the country on the vault.
And we're going to move over to the horse now. Sho Nakamori from Stanford. He had a 9.3 yesterday, Bart, to one of the few 9s.
He also had a terrific score on the floor exercise today. He is a very talented gymnast. And they need a good score here because their first 3 performers all scored in low to mid 8s. Nice technique and really good elevation above the horse. Lots of difficulty in this routine. Oh!
I was just about to say it looks like he's going to nail it.
It was looking good. In fact, it's unusual that his right hand just slipped there on the end because his technique is so good. Normally, you don't make a mistake like that. Oh, that's unfortunate because when you also miss the dismount, that will be devastating to his score.
Nakamori with a 7.6 on the horse. Let's go to the rings now. Taki Abdullah Simmons from Oklahoma.
You notice on his right arm there, he has that neoprene sleeve. A couple of weeks ago at the Mountain Pacific Championships, he actually fell off the horse and hyperextended his right elbow. He had an injection the other day to reduce some of the inflammation and some of the pain, but you can imagine the pressure on your elbow joints when you're doing those type of strength moves. Look at that.
Won the rings twice this year, had a 9.5 in Columbus when they beat the Buckeyes.
Yeah, he's usually good for a score in the mid-9s. Nice form and execution, really clean, good-looking toe point. I mean, he really is a very clean gymnast. A little short in that handstand there, but finessed it. Some swing in the rings, that's a slight deduction. Oh, and a hop on the landing. Score won't be what he's used to getting.
Almost stuck it though, huh? Taki Abdullah Simmons with a 9.10. Let's go to the vault now with Tyler Yamauchi of Illinois.
You notice his right ankle is wrapped there. He, a couple of weeks ago, had a severe sprain of that ankle. You can imagine vaulting is one of the events that tests his pain level, I'll tell you that.
Oh.
Really good-looking vault in the air, but of course, favoring that ankle on the landing, no question about it. That's why he stepped off to that side. That was really high.
Here at the ankle just 2 days before the Big Ten Championships, Yamauchi pulls in a 9.025. Let's go back to the rings now with Oklahoma, Jake Messina. Let's get that highest score on the I-bar.
Scored an 8.95 in the qualifying round yesterday. He can do better than that here. Nice body position there, and that uprise to Maltese, press to planche, bounce to cross. Oh, now he didn't quite hold that cross long enough. As I mentioned earlier, in order to get full credit for all of these moves, you have to hold those strength moves 2 seconds.
Messina, the one-time North Carolina Gymnast of the Year.
Good control there. Just a little short on the landing.
So Jacob Messina with a 9.125. Halfway through rotation 6, the rest of the rotation when we come back.
I have had kyphosis and lordosis.
Actually tore a ligament running through my ankle.
Ankle sprains, wrist sprains.
Dislocated fingers, reconstructive surgery on my thumb.
I think that's about it.
Back in Norman, Oklahoma, the Sooners trying to repeat as the national champions, trying to win their 4th in the last 5 years. Penn State out of the Big Ten winning it in 2004. The Buckeyes of Ohio State, the champions in 2001, eliminated in the preliminaries yesterday. Here's Wes Hagenson, the Big Ten Freshman of the Year last season, on the vaults, a 9.455's his season average.
See what he can come up with today. Good looking vault, but just short of rotation, and had to take a large step, which will probably be about a 0.3 of a point deduction. His technique is really good, very crisp in the air, but he misjudged the landing by putting his feet too far behind him.
So Hagenson pulling in a 9.125 as we go back to the rings. Oklahoma with 3 in the top 7 nationally. And here's Jamie Henderson. Pretty good season average there at 9.640.
He's incredibly strong, and we saw some of that on the pommel horse. He had to put the arm on it at the end of that routine to put together a clutch performance for OU on pommel horse after struggling there. Look at that position in the cross, press up to Maltese. That's just great gymnastics. Very clean body positions in all these strength moves. Remember, the judges are looking for strength moves. They're looking for swing moves to strength positions. Swing to handstands, something like that.
Henderson receiving All-America honors on the rings at last year's championship at West Point.
We're looking for a good score there. Oh, yeah.
9.5 for Jamie Henderson, a senior out of Houston. Here's Adam Pummer now. Missed those Big Ten championships with the sore chest, as Bart alluded to earlier in the broadcast.
Illinois is hurting here because Chris Silcox, we saw him in the first rotation go down on the high bar. Nice vault there for Pummer. Silcox is normally a big contributor to this team, but they're doing it without him today.
Pummer getting a 9.225 as we bounce right back to the rings now with Jonathan Horton. First in the NCAA with that season average.
This is a perfect example where we can see his strength to weight ratio. That is the key in gymnastics. How strong and how light are you? Well, he is enormously strong and very light, 121 pounds. Look at that. Uprise to Maltese, press to flange. Little guys on the rings have an advantage because they can manipulate their small, light frames better than a tall, lanky guy. And their arms are shorter, so holding an iron cross, it's just a matter of physics. The arms aren't so far apart.
It might be physics. Looks like strength to me. Horton had a 9.85 in Columbus. They've beaten the Buckeyes 8 straight. The Sooners.
Oh, nice dismount, and he stuck it. Remember, in collegiate gymnastics, if you stick a dismount that is particularly difficult, you have a chance to get an additional 1/10 of a point bonus from the judges. Coach Mark Williams knows that was clutch.
Boy, he didn't move an inch on that landing. 9.7, above his season average of 9.6 plus. Let's go back to the vault. Fighting line of Illinois, Justin Spring, the Nissen Emery Award winner this year.
He can launch a vault. Let's see what he goes for today. He's got a whole bag full of tricks. Oh, yeah. He does a 2.5 twister. Now, not a great landing, but that's one of the most difficult vaults being done in this competition. An additional half twist from most of the other guys.
Justin Spring with a 9.4, and after 6, we're heading for the stretch drive. Oklahoma in the driver's seat, but it's tight. Illinois at number 2. Jonathan Horton won it on the vault last year, and that's where he is headed next. Jonathan Horton of the Oklahoma Sooners looking for another national title.
My name's Jonathan Horton. The final round of the men's NCAA Gymnastics Championship is next.
We're back in Norman, Oklahoma, heading for the 7th and final rotation. The Oklahoma Sooners winning it in 02 and 03. Now looking for back-to-back again in 05 and 06. Last year just edging out Ohio State. They came down to the final event.
The last
last vaulter was Jonathan Horton, and if there's anybody on my team I trust, more, it's him. And I didn't know what it took for us to win. I knew it was really going to be close, and I was sort of trying to do the math, but I was probably too nervous to figure it out anyway, and I was just hoping that he'd put together a vault that kept us in it.
That was pretty intense because my last event was rings right before that, and we pretty much did our best on rings. And I knew if we just hit vaults, we could take the championship. And after a couple guys had some falls, we're like, it really is going to come down to him.
I'll be honest, I was like, oh man, we lost it. We're done. Because, a couple of our guys fell, didn't make their vaults. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to try to stick this vault. I even went up to my coach. I was like, do you want me to try a harder vault? He was like, no, just do the easy one, try to stick it, make it clean. I was like, all right. I remember when I started running, my legs were like, felt kind of numb because I'd been standing there so long. I was like, oh man, this is weird. I ended up doing like the best vault of my life.
And then when he landed and took the step and stayed on his feet, and I was like, we got it.
It was pretty exciting. The scoreboard flashed up there and took us all a few seconds to figure out, did we win? So it was great.
Well, Jonathan Horton needed a 9.3, got a 9.5 last year at the 2005 championships. And now you look at the lineup right now and some serious depth on the vault for Oklahoma. They had 5 score 9 or above at the conference championships.
And let's compare the average score per gymnast. Look how close it is. Oklahoma, by 3/100ths of a point, is out averaging Illinois, and they are coming down to the wire.
So Jonathan Horton sitting back. He will vault, of course, but just sitting, waiting, wondering. You think he's reliving that 2005 championship right here?
I think there's a lot of championships in this kid's future. He seems just poised to do great things.
Well, James Myers up first. There's a senior out of Norman.
In fact, James made a mistake as the first vaulter for Oklahoma last year, and this one, much different than last year. Really high and far, a little bit out of line, but still a solid score.
Over on the parallel bars, Chris Long, freshman out of Massachusetts.
Once again, Illinois dealing with this change in their lineup after they lost Chris Silcox in that first rotation. So they put up Ted Brown. He scored an 8.65 for them. Now Chris Long.
Oh,
missed his hand. And again.
After the first miss, that turned into a psychological disaster.
Now remember, 6 guys compete in each event, just the best 4 scores. So his score obviously will be extremely low. That loads up the pressure on the rest of the lineup to come up with great routines from Yamauchi, Hagenson, Pummer, Spring. That's the problem when you have an injury, is that all of a sudden it loads up the pressure on everybody else.
Let's take another look at the fall, Bart.
This is what they call a back toss, and they just completely misjudged that left hand placement, and then, like you said, he got flustered modifying his routine. Sometimes when you get a little off, you start to modify the sequence of skills, and he couldn't recover. Look at that score, 7-3.
Let's go back to the vault for the Oklahoma Sooners. Chris Brooks, another freshman.
Boy, he lit him up tonight with that 9.6 on the high bar earlier. Houston, Texas. Oh, that's nice. Very high. Of course, he didn't stick the landing, but this vault basically starts at a 9-stick start value. Double twister, really high and far from the horse. It'll be a good clean score for sure.
One time he said he tripped on the vault, received a 2. Here he gets a 9.2. Let's go to rings. Stanford trying to stay in contention. Peter Durman, 5th nationally with a 9.470 average.
J.D. Reeve, the assistant coach. putting him up. JD, many-time member of the U.S. national team, now the assistant at Stanford. Oh, look at those positions. Derman is strong. Look at him press up from the cross up to the Maltese. Azarian around to another cross. Like I said earlier, you got to be Superman to be able to do this.
This has to be one of the more difficult routines, or not the routine, but just the event. I would think, anyway.
Yeah, it is, you know, so intense on your shoulders to be able to hold yourself completely controlling the ring. Nice double layout. Stanford coming back there after a really rough time on the pommel horse.
So Derman gets a 9.475. And we go back to the Fighting Illini with Tyler Yamauchi.
He's built a little bit like Jonathan Horton. He's real short and real strong.
You know, you mentioned Yamauchi and Pummer both missing the Big Ten championship. But the coaching staff said they were proud of how they kept battling. They never quit. Never gave up, still finished second. Ooh, came into this competition with a lot of confidence because they're healthy for a change.
Look for a good score for Yamauchi. It's tough because Chris Long had a 7.3, so I said it loads up the pressure on the rest of the crew. That should be a solid score, probably low nines.
Low 9.050 for Tyler Yamauchi. Back to the vault. Taki Abdullah Simmons. See a 9.675 on the parallel bars.
It's a Yurchenko style vault. Oh, and he sticks it. He didn't even raise his arms to salute to the judges.
He just slipped and fell. He is jacked up. A 9.525 for Taki Abdullah Simmons. Rotation number 7. And Simmons and the Sooners sitting on top. The rest of the rotation coming up. What does it take to become a champion? We're about to find out. Oklahoma, Illinois, heading down the home stretch. Here's Russell Chashin, the freshman, on the vault for the Sooners.
He can really launch a vault for a big guy at 6 feet 3 inches tall. Oh! And he stuck it.
That is the verbal definition of sticking it, huh?
Wow. Outstanding. Look at the technique. Perfect position in the air. He spots the landing and just drills it like a dart in a dartboard.
A 9.575 for the rookie. Has to be proud of that. There's the rookie of the year last year in the Big Ten, Wesley Hagenson, now on the parallel bars. Third at the Big Ten championships. You know, back in March, the Illini dominating the Big Ten. Big Ten Gymnast of the Week. 3 straight weeks. Hagenson, Pummer, Spring.
Scored an 8.95 in the prelims. He's capable of a score bigger than that. Oh, nice combination. Actually, there's a lot of difficulty value in this routine. So many tough tricks. He's a very complete gymnast, actually. Has the right combination of strength, flexibility, is a good technique, and he's quick. Oh, look for a big score, folks. Illinois looking great on the parallel bars.
Illinois trying to turn up the heat and catch the Sooners at 9.6 on the bars for Wesley Hagenson. Reed Pitts back on the vault for Oklahoma. One-time walk-on who battled his way onto the team through hustle and effort.
Scored a career high yesterday in the qualifier, 9.35. Oh, nice technique. He did not drill it like Chasheen and Abdullah Simmons, but the technique on this vault is remarkable. Very high, clean in the air.
And the score for Reed Pitts, a 9.250. Adam Pummer. Justin Spring's #1 in the country. Now, I heard you say that Pummer's almost as good as Spring.
These guys are great. This is a strong parallel bar routine. Yamauchi already had a 9.05. Hagenson, a 9.6. And the two best guys are coming up now. Look at that.
Illinois having a big senior day against Army. They swept the top 3 spots on all 6 events. Wound up with a season high 220 points.
This routine, if he can finish with a big dismount, we're looking for a big score. Okay, no stick on the landing, so he didn't get the additional bonus for the stick, but the rest of the routine is just world class. Take a look at the handstand and this double back in a pike position. Once again, if he can stick it, he gets an additional 1/10 of a point. Didn't quite do it, but still look for a big score. Oh!
9.650 for Adam Pummer. Jonathan Horton standing by on the vault for the Oklahoma Sooners. Last year needed a 9.3, got a 9.5 to win the national championship for the Sooners over the Buckeyes of Ohio State.
He has a huge vault, one of the most difficult vaults being done in the competition. He didn't vault in the qualifying round yesterday. Look at him get the crowd jacked up. They rested him in the preliminaries, but they are going to need a big vault here. He can seal it for the Sooners if he can do a big one.
Oh!
Nice looking vault. 2.5 twister. The same we saw from Justin Spring. The hardest vault being done here.
A 9.5. Actually, I thought it'd be higher.
Well, you know, he didn't quite stick it. A little sloppy on the landing, so they have to make the deduction.
Jonathan Horton pumping up that Sooner crowd here in Norman as they shoot for yet another national championship. Justin Spring on the parallel bars, sitting at #1 in the country.
The reigning NCAA champion on this event. Boy, they've had good scores over here so far. Hagenson's 9.6, Pummer's 9.65, and Spring is capable of even more.
Earlier you mentioned him dislocating his kneecap against Ohio State in January. Came back and broke the school record on the parallel bars with a 9.80 after missing less than 3 weeks.
What a performance from Illinois on the parallel bars. That move's called a Diamidov. It was invented by a famous Russian gymnast. A lot of the moves are named after people who first performed them. This is that pike double at the end. He's so aggressive. He's fun to watch. Expect a big score there as well.
Justin Spring pulling a 9.675. So a strong finish for the Nissen Emery Award winner in 2006.
There it is, folks. Oklahoma repeats as national champions. How about that, Mike?
How about it, huh? Mark Williams replacing 7 seniors with 7 freshmen, and they do it again. We'll hear from the Sooners when we come back. In Norman, where the Oklahoma Sooners crowned national champions again. Mark Williams telling us yesterday he thought Illinois would give them a run for their money. They did, but the Sooners prevail. Stanford winding up 3rd behind the Fighting Illini. Let's take a look now at our Pontiac high performance moment. We go back to rotation 2, up on the high bar with Jonathan Horton. Horton pulled a 7.7 on the high bar at the conference championships. He was disgusted. He said, "That's not like me at all." Known for his explosive, daring skills, he likes to make it exciting. Well, he did just that tonight on the high bar. Jonathan Horton of Oklahoma. Bart Connors downstairs now with our Pontiac high performer.
All right, thanks, Mike. Well, congratulations to the Oklahoma Sooners one more time. Incredible. Mark, 4 out of the last 5 years, you know, I hate that term dynasty, but I got to throw it out. This is something.
Hey, this is a special team. You know, every year is different. These guys were tremendous tonight. I'm just so happy for them. Congratulations, guys.
Now, you lost 7 guys from last year, and yet you reloaded with this incredibly talented young team.
Well, you know, I didn't think we'd be this good, you know, and the guys bought into the system. They believed in what we were doing, and the new guys just came in and got the job done. It's just amazing. I would have never scripted this ever. I mean, this is fantastic in the home crowd. We love it.
Congratulations on an undefeated season. And, of course, Jonathan, you're the spark. You're sort of electrified this place with your gymnastics. Where does that come from?
I don't know. You know, I just go out there, do my thing. I don't even think about it. I just have fun with it. And I love gymnastics, and I love this team.
Oh, congratulations to you guys, Sooners. Well done. Oklahoma Sooners, national champions, 4 out of the last 5 years. Mike?
Thanks, Bart. Now this year, the NCAA Women's Bowling Championships moved to Houston, Texas. You can catch all the action on ESPN2 on April 16th at 2:30 p.m. For the official results from every NCAA National Championship, including a complete recap of the 2006 Men's Swimming and Diving Championships, go to NCAAsports.com. NCAAsports.com is the official online home for all 88 NCAA championships. Once again, the Oklahoma Sooners win yet another men's NCAA Gymnastics Championship. For Bart Connor, this is Mike Gleason saying so long. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.